Good evening, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and tonight I'm going to cover the topics of bit and byte and the American Standard Code of Information Interchange. But before I do, I'm probably one of the rare few YouTube personalities on the YouTube platform that will never go, "Oh, please, 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 please like my video. And if you would be ever so kind as to subscribe to my channel, which will cause all my videos to be shared all over the platform." Let me tell you something. That ain't going to work. And I'll tell you why. Because YouTube cannot determine what they need to determine, which is whether my videos are keeping you guys on their platform by the use of the like buttons and the subscribe buttons, okay? Now, why do these people tell you this? Well, number one, it extends the watch time on their videos, which I'll tell you a little later why that would have an effect. But anyway, the other thing is that the like button itself, you could flip through things all day long, just go like. It's not going to tell YouTube anything, okay? Now, as for the subscribe button, that's a little different story. Have you noticed that when you hit the subscribe button now, this little menu pops up and it sets your bell notifications? There you go. That's why they're telling you that. Now, the bell notifications might tell YouTube something about how popular your channel is, and they might want to share your videos because of it. Okay? But what will cause YouTube to share your videos? Well, there are two things you can... Well, first of all, if people like you who are watching these videos right now were to copy the URL of the video and share it on a different social media platform like Facebook, what used to be Twitter, now is X, Gab, you got Truth Social, Instagram, Threads, whatever you want to share it on, that would get your video shared more, okay? Number two, when you increase the watch time of the video, then YouTube gets an indication that people are actually watching the whole thing and not just watching bits or pieces and jump cutting through everything in your video. So that is a good indication. The other thing you could do, okay, is you can leave very nice comments in the comments section below. And what that tells them is you were engaged, you watched, you replied, you really liked the content that you were watching, and that helps your ratings as well. So really what you really want to do if you want to increase, if you want to motivate YouTube to share your videos more often, watch the videos all the way through. Well, not you, but I mean your audience needs to watch the videos all the way through, increasing the watch time of every single one of your videos, or have them leave the nice comments in the comment section below so that YouTube can see for themselves that, gee, this is a video we want to share all over the platform. And there you go. And another thing I need to mention real quick before we resume our video is that I have published 5 Kindle books. They're $5 a piece. If you want a copy of any of these Kindle books, just leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll send you a hyperlink to my latest book, which you now can see on the screen. And then from there you can find my other 4 Kindle books, and there will be more Kindle books coming soon. It's all up to you. Buy them and let me know what you think about them. Alright, on to the video. Now, recently I've been discussing transistors and electrons and protons and electrical current and so on and so forth. I actually discussed the topic of MOSFET, which is a metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. In a future video I'm going to discuss something called the floating gate. Now, the floating gate is a component of MOSFET, and I can't tell you that I understand the whole thing correct, all of it, okay? I understand quite a bit of it, but I don't understand everything, okay? Now, there are electrons that get stored in the floating gate, okay? Now, if a computer can detect that there are electrons being stored in the floating gate, calls that a 1. If the computer cannot detect the electrons in the floating gate, that's a 0. Okay? Because you see, these are what is called binary digits. Okay? That's what bit is actually an acronym. The word bit is an actual acronym standing for binary digit. And there are 2 binary digits. There's the 1 here, and then there's the 0. Now, if you'll remember from mathematics, I discussed this in an earlier video, where in mathematics, when they came up with the concept of 0, that was called the absence of value. Then it had no value at all. And let me tell you something, when you have a floating gate and there's no electrons in it, it's not valuable to a computer at all. There you go. All right. So, now we understand this. Now, the language of bits is the only language that any computer will ever understand. Period. Okay? So how do humans like us communicate with these computers? Well, at this point, you probably would never guess that a guy by the name of Samuel Morse would play a role in all this. So, what does Samuel Morse have to do with computers? I bet this might look familiar to you. There's a computer wire. Well, that's not even a computer wire. That's like those wires from the telegraph office. Electrons would move one way, and current would move the other way. And if you reverse this, the current would move this way, and the electrons would move that way, and that's how Morse code worked. Without that, you wouldn't have Morse code. And as a side note, I will be covering the topic of Morse code in a future video. Yes, I'm going to teach you all the little dots and dashes, because I'm running out of cursive letters, and I need something else to teach you guys. So, what the heck? Anyway. Whoa, almost turn the camera off. Whoops, shouldn't do that. Now, Morse code works on the property of electrons. The electrons are there or they're not. Same thing with MOSFET transistors. Either there are electrons that the computer can detect in the MOSFET, or it can't. There you go, you got zeros and ones. So, who do we credit with the creation of bits? Well, there's 2 conflicting stories about that. The first one involves a guy by the name of Werner Buchholz, and his name is down here in the description box below. And the other one is Louis B. Dooley. Now, Werner Buchholz grouped 6 bits together to form something called a byte. Today, this row of 8 zeros and ones would be considered a byte. Back in those days, Werner Buchholz subtracted 2 of these digits and called that a byte. But here's the problem. About that same time, there was this guy named Louis G. Dooley, and his bytes were 4 bits long. So you have Mr. Dooley, his 4 bits, and we have Mr. Buchholz and his 6 bits. Neither one worked. So we have this third guy, and he steps in, and his name is Bob Bemer. Originally, he adopted the 6-bit definition of a byte, and he created a computer standard that he submitted to the American Standards Association back in 1961 because he was working at the time for IBM. In 1963, which was 2 years later, The American Standards Association finally published a document called the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It was based on a grouping of 7 computer bits. This document would eventually be called the ASCII. This document presented byte translations for every letter of the English alphabet, both capital letters and lowercase, all the digits 0 through 9, and a lot of punctuation marks. Okay? Finally, people could communicate with computers effectively. Now then, you say, well, how does this ASCII work? Okay. Well, let me tell you how this works. You have 8 bits here, all zeros. Okay? Now, what if you change this 0 to a 1? Well, then what you'd have is a value of 1. So you'd have a byte 1. Okay? And that would represent, I don't know, you have to look on the chart, the ASCII chart. If the first one on that chart is this one. Okay? Now, what would happen if we change the last 2 digits? So now we have 1 here and a 1 there. But here's the thing. This is the 2 column. So now you'd have 2 plus 1 equals 3. There you go. So you'd have the third character of the ASCII chart. So, this goes on and on. So what you'd have is you'd have a 1 column, a 2 column, a 4 column, an 8 column, a 16 column, a 32 column, a 64 column, and let's see, if I remember right, let me calculate this. 64 times 2. Yep, I was right. 128. So like I said, you'd have this column, this column, this column, this column, this column, this one, and this one. So you have your 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0. Okay, so for all zeros, that's going to be called the null. There's nothing there. Okay, but let's say we change this 0 here to a 1. So what we do is add 1 to all these zeros. Okay, but we're not really adding 1 here. We're adding 8. Okay. Now, we don't add a 4, we don't add a 2, we don't add a 1, we don't add all these because there's zeros here, okay? So, let's say there was a 1 here. So, if you have a 1 under the 8 and you have a 1 under the 2, then it would be 8 plus 2, which would equal 10. So the 10th character of ASCII would be represented that way. And that's how that works. Okay. So, eventually the ASCII started converting letters, numbers, English language punctuation, and even special symbols into 8-bit combinations, which I just illustrated to you. That's why we have the current term byte. Now, there's only one other thing I want you to notice. You often see when you're dealing with computers, especially with internet, okay? If you're dealing with computers, you'll probably see terms like MB, GB, and of course TB, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. But you got to watch out for this. When it comes to internet companies, what you'll see is an M lowercase b, a G lowercase b, and a T lowercase b. Like, what does that represent? Lowercase b always represents a bit. And so therefore, when you're thinking all these bytes are going through the computer or through the internet and getting to the other side, they're not really bytes, they're bits. All your internet's measured in bits, not bytes. So it's actually going 8 times slower than what you think it is. That could be bad. Alright, so hopefully now you understand what's going on with computers. And I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.